Here we go. We are on the final stretch. So let's get this started.
Burkina Faso is not.
That's time.
My final claim is Black conservatism fails to meet the needs of the working class.
Let's see. Oh, it's this guy again.
Okay, talk to me.
So I think Black conservatives, we're the ones who really want the best for working people.
Yep, let's see.
I think we're the ones, like a lot of the liberals, a lot of the leftists, they want us to do things like office work. They want us to go reparations, try to get things from the government and get handouts. We say, hey, go out there and work. Go out there and get these jobs that are available. Work with your hands, do skilled trades. That's where a lot of us talk about, skilled trades. So working class, that's really a Black conservative thing, in my humble opinion.
Well, before he continues, most trade schools are far more valuable than a lot of college degrees. The thing is, because people were basically told all their lives, if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure, you're going to be unsuccessful, you're going to become a janitor, you're going to be that person. What parents initially thought of college has changed over the years. And because college noticed people kept going to it, thinking it's some mandatory way of becoming a rich millionaire and having your life be successful for the rest of it, they took advantage of people by adding bullshit classes that are easier to pass, but have no actual real life implementation outside of college. But let's continue.
I beg to disagree. I think that would be true if Black conservatism also created pathways for people to get those jobs and also to be able to challenge the corporations that are using their labor, that are stealing from them and not impeding them from having a union. So for instance, like in the South, right? I just left North Carolina where I met with the USSW, the Union of Southern Service Workers. This is an unofficial union of individuals who work at places like Waffle House, at Food Lion, etc. And their unofficial union is unofficial because the conservatives in that state will not allow for them to be officialized.
Let me see that.
USSW, the Union of Southern Service Workers.
USSW.
This is an unofficial union of individuals who work at places like Waffle House, at Food Lion, etc. And their unofficial union is unofficial because the conservatives in that state will not allow for them to be officialized.
Legitimized. There you go.
I'll have to look at that later because unions are extraordinarily complex. But depending on the union, it can either be really good or really bad for that certain. And some unions are opt-in, so I'm not going to go too far into it since I have no clue the specific one she's talking about.
Not allow for them to be legitimized because then they would be able to push back legitimately on the corporations to get fair wages, right? So like someone was telling me in this organization that she was in Baltimore getting $15.25 as a minimum wage, and then when she moved just one state away, she was now only getting $7.25 for minimum wage, but the cost of living was the same for her. So she was now only getting $7.25 for minimum wage, but the cost of living.
Wait, minimum wage Baltimore? Okay, so let's fact check this. Okay, Baltimore is this weird one. Yeah, it's somewhere in Maryland. I don't remember exactly where. But if she moved one state away, most likely she's either talking about West Virginia, or Pennsylvania. Okay, there we go. It's Pennsylvania she's talking about. So now we gotta see how much it costs to live in Pennsylvania versus how much it costs to live in Maryland. Let's see. Home ownership. So Baltimore is 14% cheaper than Philadelphia, but Maryland's housing costs 2.2 higher than Pennsylvania overall. So from at least what I can gather, it seems that Pennsylvania, Philadelphia cost a little more to live than Baltimore, but in general, Pennsylvania as a state is a little cheaper. So, due to lack of information, it's really hard to get an exact number on everything without fucking something up. So yeah, now let's see.
And then when she moved just one state away, she was now only getting $7.25 for minimum wage, but the cost of living was the same for her. So when we talk about, the effort of saying go out and get these jobs and get these trades, et cetera, I think that is valid, but I think that the impediments by leveling up corporations and by pouring into the effort of corporations to keep billionaires, as Black conservatives, you are actually cutting off the ability for those people to excel.
Okay, I understand your point, but a lot of us are more about being self-sufficient. So the South, a friend of mine down there, King Randall,
Yep.
has a school for boys. He's what, 22
Ooh.
years old? He has a bunch of kids living with him. He's teaching them physical skills they can do. Okay,
Yeah.
being a mechanic, working on your car,
Oh, yeah, that's
working
always
on your
good.
house, building things with your hands. So you don't got to worry about corporations. You could be your own man. You could be your own woman. And also,
I agree.
didn't you also say earlier that you're against unions? But are you
No,
for them now?
I never said that.
Also, you're for unions.
Absolutely.
So when the unions keep black folks out, you're for that as well? Because that's traditionally what they've done, keep black folks out, correct?
Obviously, I am not for that. The reality is that unions have definitely in the beginning kept black folks out. And the reason why they were keeping black folks out is because after the Civil War, when there was Reconstruction, you had all these black people that had been used with free labor and they had skills, right? Whether they were a blacksmith or a carpenter or whatever. However, they could not get jobs because the white people who now had to fend for themselves, if you will, because they didn't have slaves, they had to go and learn all these trades.
Right.
And so they actively kept black people out of those jobs. And then what they would do is that when they would, as a union, say, we're going on strike, the black people would be like, well, we'll work because they won't let us in their union anyway. And then when they would go and actually get those jobs that
Okay, I'll bring up this part. But basically, what happened at this part was Abraham Lincoln was assassinated into his second presidency, and Andrew Johnson was the one who took over. I'll tell you all the good parts about him before I go into the extensive list of bad parts, which is his state, Tennessee, actually left the Union. And instead of joining with his state, he chose the Union over his state, which, for a Southern Democrat who liked slavery, to denounce his own state and side with the Union was a very unheard of decision. Because, like, if you're a Southern pro-slavery Democrat, there's absolutely no way you should have sided with the Republicans and the Union. But against all odds, he did. So I'll give him credit for that, and I'll give him even more credit for even going against his own state. After he took over, he wanted the South to get rid of slavery, and that part of it was done, which was another good thing he did. But now I'm getting to the extensive list of the bad things, which is, while slavery wasn't allowed, he did allow blacks to not get voting rights, not get civil rights, and stuff like that. So what happened was the South created the black codes and basically turned something that could have been improving the life of African Americans in the South into something that instead he allowed the states to legally hinder them, legally dehumanize them. So while they weren't slaves, they were just free people who just had basically little to no rights whatsoever. And that was Andrew Johnson's entire legacy, pretty much. Where he was the guy that, because he was after Lincoln and he did not meet all the requirements that was needed of a president at that time, he failed miserably in everything from that point on. And basically Congress took over trying to fix the country without the president's help. And that part happened. Thankfully, next, Ulysses S. Grant was voted in, and he did a lot more for the newly freed people than him. Oh, almost forgot, but Andrew Johnson did own slaves, but when he joined the Union, he actually willingly gave them up. That was another good decision on his part. So he's generally considered one of the worst presidents, and he deserves that spot. But there are some areas I do give him credit for, like that. Yeah, he later got replaced by the great Ulysses S. Grant, who sadly died too soon. And that's basically Andrew Johnson. A guy who could have been great, just was not the perfect fit at the time and failed miserably at what he needed to do.
say we're going on strike, the black people would be like, well, we'll work because they won't let us in their union anyway. And then when they would go and actually get those jobs that the people were on strike for, they would hang them. They would lynch them. So yes, these are real things that have taken place. But we keep having these conversations where we acknowledge the past when it's convenient, and then we only stay in the present when it's convenient. So you can't simultaneously say, well, everybody's fine now and there's no systemic racism at the same.
The thing about her is that you can acknowledge the past, but you also have to acknowledge that things have gotten better overall in the future. But she doesn't want to do both those things because then her entire ideology wouldn't have a reason to exist. So she purposefully ignores certain things for others.
Same time as stating that there are unions that are racist and unions that aren't racist. Ultimately, there is racism in the United States. It is deeply embedded. We have seen it in a myriad of examples, even just yesterday or today. And Black conservatives are working against the working class because they are actively placing their vision, their ideology of Black excellence in economics solely.
Well, there is racism
and in individual economics. And I think that's really the big difference of what we're talking about right now. You're talking about every man for themselves. Every man for themselves.
No. I don't say that.
Oh, you didn't say that?
I say that we have to be individual as people, as Black people, but still get all of us on the same page. My friend's at school, he's not just looking out for himself, he's looking for all these kids as well. So it's like, okay, I bring myself up and then bring everybody else up rather than relying upon the corporations and white people to lift this up. That's where we come from as Black conservatives.
So I think there's a difference between relying on and acknowledging that there are impediments of. And I want to acknowledge the reality that we keep seeming to bump up against, which is that everybody has equal ability, and they don't. Everybody doesn't have the same impediments. So, for instance, I grew up with a single parent, not because...
Me too.
I grew up with a single parent, not because my father was some deadbeat that didn't have... My father has a MD from Harvard. My father has an MBA from Tufts.
My dad was a firefighter, so working class, conservative.
He just didn't want to be a parent. So when we talk about this whole idea of like, oh, the Blacks that are, you know, not doing the thing, it's not about necessarily what class you're in. It's literally just about, we live in a nation that gives the option of, I don't want to be a parent. We live in a nation that gives the option of, I don't need to be in cooperation with our community.
Actually, if you don't want to be a parent and you don't pay child support, they will jail you for it. That is a stated fact. That will happen. Like, you can say there are bad parents in a nation. You can say that, but you can't say it doesn't punish them. That's not true. That's not true at all. If you're a dad and you don't pay child support, they can and they will jail you for it.
And as far as I'm concerned, Black conservatives do not address the needs of the working class, which are fair access to resources, which are equal access to getting jobs, which are equal pay to the same access as others. And we don't.
Equal to who?
Equal to other states even. Like, there's no reality where you can...
Her equal to other states thing is, to be honest, not a good example. A place like California is more expensive than a place like South Dakota. You have to base it on a state-by-state thing. If you take in all the bills and taxes they have, you'll find out which one truly has the better lifestyle.
Say that the same amount of white people are working low-wage jobs per capita as Black people. A lot of the reason is because there's such a disparate incarceration of Black people that it impedes their ability to get higher level education as well as higher level employment, because we know about disenfranchisement.
All right, there you go.
Okay, next. The one thing I'm glad is that a lot of the people who already took turns are not moving at all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Layla.
you.
I would actually argue that the Black working class is failing themselves. Wouldn't you agree that, you know, in order to get a job, in order to qualify for a certain position and an education system at a job, wouldn't you argue that it should be based off of qualifications and not your race or identity?
Exactly, merit.
I've never argued that. I've never argued that to not be the case.
Actually, she is. Yeah, what I like about that is she's talking about the merit system. I love the merit system.
But you were saying that you would argue that it should be equal, right? So you're saying that there should be Black Americans in education systems, in jobs, but wouldn't you argue that they should be qualified for those positions and not just placed there because of their skin color?
I've never disapproved that.
Okay, so let's say...
That's not what DEI is.
Okay.
Do you know that?
Well, I'm not...
Actually, that exactly is what DEI is. Holy crap. The fact that this lady doesn't know that, she's either being 100% disingenuous or she's actually literally retarded.
I'm not talking about DEI right now. Well,
because you're suggesting that I suggested that somebody should get a job just because they're Black. And I've never asserted anything like that.
I mean, I understand that you may not say that exactly, but a lot of the claims are, you know, they're pointing to that.
No, it's not pointing to that. And so that is that I need to clear this up because it's a really important point.
Okay.
We live in a nation that has actively pedestaled white people. Can we all agree on that? That we
In
no,
the past,
we can't.
in the
Okay,
past,
in the
but
past,
not currently,
in the past.
but not currently.
So okay, fair.
Okay.
Okay, so how many black people are part of this administration's cabinet?
I'm not sure.
Actually, Trump has one. Scott Turner, Secretary of Housing. Obviously, obviously he doesn't take like a very prominent media role, but he does exist. He's just mostly in the background in Trump's presidency. Let me see if I could. Yeah, but here he is. He does have black representation. The thing is that people equate not seeing enough of it to meaning that they're racist or they're evil. He mainly picked people based off of merit over their skin color.
Can you tell me?
Zero.
Can you fill me in?
Zero.
Oh,
Yeah, she's off.
Who?
so seems like there may be a
That's
couple.
not a cabinet.
I don't know.
Scott Turner.
Okay.
Okay.
So there are.
So we got two.
So there are.
So we got two.
Can
we
we
got
also,
two. We got two. So back to your point, DEI is about expanding.
Yes. Okay.
Not lowering credibility.
Okay.
So if we have a system that has very actively said these particular people are the best
God.
people
Okay.
simply because of their race, DEI said, or their gender,
Okay.
Oh my
because
God.
DEI mostly leveled up white women.
Okay. So
That part is true. Middle class white women have taken advantage of DEI. Even though they are the majority in America, not only in terms of race, but in terms of gender, the people that always bring up race and saying things like you're racist for doing this, you're racist for saying that, all these people actually think this way. Haven't you always noticed that it's 99% of the time a white rich woman? Is 100% true. White women have benefited the most. It's not even close.
it would be incorrect if it's, if we're pointing toward this, a majority of race is qualified because of the skin, the base of the skin color.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether they're
Okay.
white,
That is
black.
wrong.
I mean, race
great.
is fake anyway.
Now, I do want to touch on a point that you did mention earlier
God.
that you would argue that, black people have less opportunities in America. I do not agree with that. I have not had,
First of all, you're a
problem.
light-skinned woman.
And so are you.
If she's a light-skinned woman, then what would you be compared to this guy right here? What would you be compared to this guy? You're a light skin compared to him. That you have absolutely no right to pull a bullshit argument like that. Hell no. Hell no. Oh my God, man. I'm so pissed off at her for that.
Yes,
And you're doing
so
great for
colorism,
yourself.
Yes, and so colorism really
well,
does
well,
serve us.
I do want to say, why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that? Do you think it's just based off the color of our
Oh my
skin, or do you
God.
think it's based off of the reputation that black people make for themselves?
What reputation are black people making for
What
themselves?
would you argue? Because I mean, when I look at
Who makes the
let's-
reputation
let's
for
look
black
at, Let's
people?
look at music,
Oh,
for
God.
example.
We already had this conversation with somebody else.
Well, we're gonna have it again. Most of the
Oh,
people
yeah.
that
Oh, are we?
Most of the people.
I'm going to shut it
most
down
of
right
the
now and
black
let you
Oh
know
my
that the
God.
reality is that when you come to black music, for you to say most of the people, you've already lost the argument.
Am I right?
There is no most of the people with black
Most
people
of-
because you haven't heard of all of black
most
music.
of no most
so
of,
let's
but
start
most
there.
of the music that is, let's say,
What she's basically trying to say is the most popular form of black music is gonna be rap. There's obviously jazz, there's obviously soul, there's rock and roll, which a lot of black people have abandoned, but there still are a lot of black artists in it, and she's gonna bring up that hip hop is the main form of music, where some people, instead of taking it as a expression of their beliefs through music, they take it as a literal lifestyle that they should achieve. And once they get to that lifestyle, they're surprised that they go to jail or die early in life because of it.
maybe exalted or are shown by
And
the
who
media,
controls-
right?
and who controls those
defiles,
systems?
It defiles
And
black
who
Americans.
controls those
But who's putting it
systems?
out there?
The music
we
industry.
are. Black
No,
we're the ones
actually,
putting
the
it out
distribution
there.
systems that are putting them out there
And
are owned by white
who
people.
listens? Who listens to them? Because
God.
I
don't
can
know.
bet
That
you
is
most
true.
of
They love rap. That is a big part of their culture. And she's purposefully denying it because she doesn't want to admit that that's the type of music they listen to. Listening to that type of music isn't bad as long as you know it's not real life. It's a parody. It's an act. Most rappers are not these extreme gangsters, drug lords, and whatever, because if they were, they would have been killed by now.
My friends, my black friends that are not conservative, they listen to that music that defiles
You know who
their
else-
bodies,
you know
that
who
talks
else listens
about
to that
black on
music?
black crime, and that
Everybody
it's a good
else.
thing.
But if
Am
we
I
don't
right?
acknowledge that they are not in the same way pursuing white voices talking about the same thing, even though they are, we simply like
Okay.
to start at the branches of a tree and not at the root. We have to understand that the media is king.
Oh, God.
Okay, media is king.
And media does not favor conservatism. I can tell you that right now. I mean,
Depending
look at
on
the
who is-
protests right now in
depending on
Los
who is-
Angeles.
Depending on who is in office, media does favor them.
I mean,
Media
we
has
have Trump
never-
in office right
media
now,
has
and
never
media is not
favored-
favoring Trump at
media
all.
is absolutely not
Jesus.
favoring Trump
Okay,
in
thank
certain
you, thank you.
spaces because Trump is also not favoring that particular type of media. But it depends
okay.
on the day. And we have to acknowledge that regardless of whether you
God.
talk conservatism or not, media has never favored black people at any point.
All right, guys, that's time. You've been
Okay.
voted out.
Thank you.
Please
At
vote
any
yes.
point.
Thank you.
Let's go. Okay, who's next? Oh, him again.
Back.
Speedy Gonzalez. Let's
So
go.
let's talk about facts. I just want to move back to systemic racism because you mentioned systemic racism earlier. I just want to look at 3 applications of systemic
Oh my God, why do I feel like Final Boss music has turned on? Holy crap. Let's see. This guy looks like he's about to kill her. Holy God.
racism against white people and against East Asians as well. So for example, we have the National College Attainment Network, which defines affirmative action or even race-conscious admissions as taking race as one of the factors in whether or not you're going to admit a student. And we noticed that when race-conscious admissions was out of it, black enrollment dropped 64%. At UC Berkeley. And that is an act of systemic racism. Trying to look at people's races and allow them into colleges whether or not they're of a set race is racism. I mean, it's race conscious. And Martin Luther King's most famous quote is that he doesn't want his children to be judged based on race, but by the content of their character.
Yep.
And the content of people's characters also includes merit. We have another example of systemic racism. Burgess Owens. He's a representative out of Utah. He's a black Republican representative. He called out the MIT president for having black-only dormitories. I mean, what does that mean? Why are we trying to segregate each other and say that black people feel safer amongst black people when the truth is they are actually more in danger when they're around black people? And that's unfortunate. It's sad that I'm saying this, but it's the case, and I have to say it because it's true, okay? Black people are killing each other at a vast, crazy rate. Black men rapping about it. It's savagery. It's barbaric, and we shouldn't be doing it as a people. We should try to get more Ben Carsons. Ben Carson's cousins were murdered when he was younger, but his mother came to him and gave him a book and told Ben Carson to read and study to not be like his cousins. And Ben Carson separated 2 twins at the back of the head, and he's known as one of the best pronounced neurologists or neuroscientists that we've ever seen, right?
That sounds pretty cool. I don't know the guy personally, but if you can separate 2 people that are conjoined together like that, that is an amazing thing.
Ben Carson
what we
said
should
that
encourage
slaves
people.
were immigrants.
Well, they were brought here to the United States, and many of them were slaves, and we know that to be a fact.
What is the difference between someone being an immigrant and being a stolen person?
I mean, I understand that many people were stolen here, but 90% of historians agree that slavery would have not been possible if black slave owners within Africa didn't sell off their people. White people didn't show up and just start stealing people. They didn't do that. That's not how that.
Oh yeah, that's true. Lots of tribes in Africa had slavery. Obviously, the amount or the severity of it did vary between a lot of borders. Like people have to stop seeing Africa as this one united giant place, when in reality it's just a bunch of smaller countries in it that all have their own views, their own interests, their own cultures, and had lots of people who, some of them had slavery, some of them had, like there were countries in Africa that did have slavery. And then there were also countries in Africa that had varying degrees of severity of slavery.
Worked.
Literally did that.
But they didn't. They worked with black owners and black.
They
the Arabs, the same
literally
thing.
did that.
It's funny
and
you guys talk
Arabs
about
did that
European.
as well. And I think it's
They
very
did it in the 7th
important.
century,
And I
too.
think it's important to
Whoa.
note that there is an oversimplification of history as well as of black people in Africa. There's a failure to acknowledge that in Africa, black people did not consider themselves black people. That was a racial distinction that was solely created by white oppressors to legitimize slavery.
Arab oppressors, actually. Because the Arabs did it in the 7th
To
century. They
legitimize.
were the first ones.
They did not.
Yep, he's true. This guy is cooking. This guy knows his history.
Not name it under blackness. They simply just decided we're going to go and have enslavers. This was a decision that was actualized and then tried to be pushed forward through eugenics. Literally, there was an executive order that was passed a few months ago that said that Donald Trump wants to now control the museums because he wants to take back control of the narrative around race. And in one of these museums,
I'm interested in seeing what Trump does with it, because there were a lot of people that fought in order to end slavery. And just showing all the bad parts is a purposefully disingenuous thing where it doesn't show you the entire story. You have to show the story for the whole part. There were people that fought against slavery since it began. There were people that didn't. There were people that did horrible atrocities. There were people that maybe were in the middle of the issue and things like that.
That they cited was that there was a display that speaks about race not as a biological thing, but as something that has just been created as a social construct. And he stated that that is an incorrect expression of race, that race is biological.
But it is biological. Like let's look at our phenotypical traits, the nose differences,
wow.
the hair texture. It's a biological thing.
Oh,
sure,
baby.
there's a social
not,
concept,
sir,
but there's
sir,
biological
okay,
differences.
Oh my God.
Sir,
It's
you're
fine.
very convicted in your
look
lack of
different.
information
People can look
around
different.
these things.
Oh my God, of course. The guy who brought up what the Muslims did in the 17th century obviously does not know what the hell he's talking about. Yeah, sure, lady.
Race and ethnicity are two different things, okay?
I'm talking about
Ethnicity
race.
is where you're from. Race is literally something that was created to put people into categories of caste, to put people into categories
God.
of oppression. Race is not something that you are. Race is something that was bestowed and put
That's
upon you.
racism, not race. Race is simply the
race
aggregation.
is literally something that was created and put upon you. And I want you to listen to me.
To be honest, most people's skin color is just Mother Nature doing its work. We can't fix Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't give a shit.
As somebody who has studied this, who has a master's in African American Studies from the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University, I want you to understand very
God.
clearly that race is not something that is biological. There is literally
Look at us.
no.
Look at the
There is
differences.
there is many differences that are equated to ours that
And
has
they're
nothing
not
to do with
biological?
race.
Melanin
That has nothing to
content
do
is
with
not
race.
biological at
so
all?
if you have a black parent and you have a white parent, and now you come out looking white, how is that a biological
But most-
proof of
most
your
of them-
race?
most of them
There's
come
no
out
most of them.
having
Stop,
curly hair.
stop. There's no most of them. You do not
Mixed
have
race?
anything to
You're
prove
mixed
that.
race too.
I am not mixed race. My mother is black and my father is black.
Well,
And yet, the way you look tells us that you're mixed race.
my father is also considered black, but he's very much has a lot of European DNA. And
You know what I think? I think that you are at a phase of your learning where you are a
Oh my
contrarian. And I
God.
look forward to seeing your development because I have a feeling that
Oh
you're actually
my
going to flip the script
God.
eventually, because you are somebody that definitely is grounded in wanting to
Oh my
learn
God.
facts and wanting to learn the truths of things. However, you're currently still stuck in an indoctrinated space that is tricking you into thinking that you are something that you are not. You are a black person who is literally having to receive the results of racism, but ultimately you
Oh my God, that was a whole ass headache. Holy crap, she is coping so hard. I love that this guy is... I love this guy already. I hope they let him talk more.
are of an ethnicity that has thrived in spite of it. And that is where we really exist from.
Don't
and that
kick him
is
out,
where
you
Our
assholes.
resilience comes from in spite of systemic racism.
I think our resilience is happening now. I think growing, understanding the real problems, not going out and trying to protest against. You guys don't ever do this. KTS.
You
Dre,
guys don't ever do that.
KTS
Who is
Dre.
you guys?
members of the black community that want to hold people accountable, especially black people. So KTS Dre was shot 60 times outside of Cook County, Chicago. How many BLM members came out? You earlier said BLM
Stop
is about
referring
police.
to me as you guys.
Okay, that's fine. So, for example, we had a really good example of this where it's not a police, because I remember you
Where
said...
are you from?
Where am I from? What do you mean by that? Like, what state am I from? Where was I
Oh
born?
my God, of course. That's the thing she brings up. I know exactly what she's going to be like. You're born in a state with predominantly this many people, therefore your black experience is null and doesn't matter. That's exactly what she's going to say. Let me guess.
Where do you live right now?
I live in Florida. I was born in Angola.
Yeah.
I was born in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay.
Where did you grow up for most of your time?
In Maine. I lived in North America.
In Maine.
Yes.
And what is the population of black people in the town that you're from?
Probably
it's
2%.
Really extremely low, but I grew up around black people, and there's a black community where I lived.
And that black community that you lived in, did they teach you about black history in the United States?
I
Like,
learned black history.
are your parents black American?
Yeah, my mom is black. My father is black.
No, I'm asking, were they born in the United
No,
States?
because I wasn't born there.
Oh, so you guys are all from Angola?
Yes, but again, like I told you earlier, right? In terms of people like KTSJ, they were shot. BLM doesn't come out for them. And I remember you earlier said,
think it's really
hold on, can I
important
please finish? You earlier
Thank
said that
God.
BLM is worried about police, but when Daniel Penny choked out the man that we all know was causing violence on that subway train,
He was not causing violence.
He was threatening
causing
people.
disruption is not causing violence.
He was threatening people.
Causing disruption is not causing violence.
And the people there helped him also. And we know that we helped them.
I don't know what that has to do with BLM. Random people on a train is not Black Lives Matter.
BLM showed up for that. They did.
Showed up for what?
BLM showed up.
After he was found not guilty, Black Lives Matter leader called for black vigilantes to retaliate. As the trial was ending, an unknown group placed signs on the subway that said, "A man was lynched here."
Threatening white people, saying that they were going to go get white people. Now they
BLM
did.
protested.
BLM New York.
BLM protested. Where did you get that from? You see, your sources are not. You're not able to cite your sources.
In
Please
New
go
York.
sit down.
Oh my God.
That's the truth.
Of course, the lady who doesn't respect facts and sources when they don't align with her beliefs obviously hates them.
It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's not the. Nothing you say is actually the truth.
Bro, he's great. I love this guy.
You're not even a Black American. As the dog.
Oh my God, that's racist. So what you're saying is if you're not a Black American, their opinion doesn't matter? Holy shit, woman. Holy shit. You are something.
Daughter of an immigrant. It is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
Oh my God, that is extremely racist. So basically, people from other countries, if they come here, do not have the right to speak over you because their opinion doesn't matter. Holy crap, woman. If you were any other race, holy crap, that was racist on such a high degree. So if you're from another country that she doesn't care or think about, your opinion obviously means nothing. Yeah, fucking great. From her choosing? Really? Fuck.
Who feels passionately about something that they want to talk to me about? I choose John Samuel because I like his facial hair and dashiki pairing. I feel like he's gonna sing a mean R&B.
Okay, let's go.
Which one? My claim is that Black people as a community need to walk away from the Democratic Party and progressivism completely. I'm saying this from a very unique perspective. I'm not trying to shout myself or anything. This is really just my experience. Currently, I'm running for Congress, right? And one of the biggest hurdles I have in doing that is the Black community. It's because they expect us to be in this box.
What's the box?
The box would be, okay, you're Black, so you got to be a Democrat. You got to think this way. You have to have this view on this matter.
No, you got to tell me, think what way?
Like,
I really want to understand.
So let's take immigration. That's a hot button issue right now, especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
My view is that you should come here the legal way, and that if you don't come here the legal way, you are subject to the laws of the country. But I also feel that if you're...
anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that a lot of people, especially where I'm from San Diego, will like to put Black conservatives in this box. And the reason why I say specifically in my claim that Black people need to walk away from the Democratic Party is because every single election cycle, all they do is use us as their tokens. They use us as their kind of election tools. They use us as these campaign posters. They tell us to come to their rallies. They tell us to sing on their stages. They tell us to do all these things, and they forget about us 3 other years, and they remember us 4 years later. Every single cycle, it happens again and again. And I'm one of the people, like, I really appreciate you because it seems like you have a love for the Black community and you have a love for people, and I appreciate that. And I do too, because I don't express that in the same way as, let's say, as a Black person who's a member of the Democratic Party. I get called Uncle Tom, I get called I get called a racist. I hate myself. I love myself.
Exactly.
And I love our people.
That happens a lot,
I love
sadly.
everything about us. We have done so much for this country. We built this table that everyone is seated at. We deserve rights. We deserve all these things. However, what I don't like more than that, more than anything, is being used. It's being used by politicians, being used by governments as some type of puppet to say, here's my black person that's voting for me. I don't like that. And that makes me sad, no matter you're Democrat, Independent,
Can I
Green Party,
respond?
whatever. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I would add to that it's no different with the Conservative Party, that there is 1000% a use of black people to weaponize a concerted effort to literally, quote unquote, make America great again. The concept of make America great again did not start with Donald Trump. It started
with Reagan.
With Ronald Reagan, and it happened right after the Civil Rights Movement. There was a very strong, visceral response by white people after the Civil Rights Movement, after the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Fair Housing Act of 1969, the Economic Opportunity Act of 1965. These were all efforts that were put in place on a federal level to say, okay, fine, here and damn, we gonna give you a little bit of something to get your weight up. After that, there was a active effort made by conservatives, because that's also when we saw the flip between the Democratic and Republican parties.
Never a flip.
There was a flip. That's actively what happened.
Oh my God, this lady, oh my God. I hate that point so much. Oh, these guys flipped. Like, why would two people in two parties magically all decide one day to completely flip every ideal they have for no specific reason? The Democratic Party of today is not close to the Democratic Party of Andrew Jackson. And the Republican Party of today is not close to the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln. They changed so much because the issues those people had at those times are pretty much non-existent anymore. Therefore, both parties have an entirely new set of issues that they deal with currently today.
Was a flip. And
Since Reconstruction, Democratic Party has been the party of slavery, the party of racism.
There was a flip because the Democrats were more aligned with making these civil rights concessions than the Republicans. That's the flip. Ultimately, though, the flip is what people are misappropriating, because the flip isn't a 180. Okay, if the flip is literally just we was this and now we this, and that is not the same as we are for black people. The Democratic Party is not for black people, nor is the Republican Party. Any nation that has a bipartisan system that doesn't even allow for its own people to determine who are going to be the candidates for president isn't for its people in general, beyond blackness. So it's imperative that we begin to truly understand the systems at work in this government that not only hinder us as black people, but they hinder anyone who wants to see change, because they are ultimately working together. Now, do we see one party activating higher levels of discrimination than others? Yes. Do we see one party that is more violent per se than others? Yes. And we can say this on many different levels. But when it comes to like enacting genocide or destabilizing other nations, we know that that happens on an American level, regardless. Okay? I completely agree that the idea that you have to act a certain way as a black person is really problematic, because the Democrats and the Republicans, neither of them actually care about black people. And when we talk about conservatism or we talk about being a liberal, neither of these aspects were grounded in how do we help to repair the harm that we have caused an entire group of people who made it possible for us to even have a constitution.
Oh my God. I like this guy, but man, he's letting her talk way too much.
Here and show me whatever you want.
No. The only reason why I was going to show you this is because
even with that constitution, we weren't even humans.
When
they wrote it.
So that was another fact check I wanted to kind of fact check before, but I couldn't say anything.
Please
but
talk the whole
the 3/5
time.
compromise had nothing to do with your 3/5 of a person. The 3/5 compromise had to do with representation in Congress.
Exactly.
So there's a little note here if you open this.
Yep, that's something I brought up in the last video. Yep.
3/5 compromise said that the Southern slaveholders needed to be represented fairly in Congress. And because there was so many more slaves than actual white people in the South, they were allowed to count their slaves as representation, even though those slaves did not have the ability to vote.
If we were at that time, let's say the 3/5 compromise never happened, we were a whole person as a light of the government, right? If that happened, then this America would not be the America that you know today. Because what it was is, if it was, we were counted as
You're defending the Three-Fifths Compromise,
Can you
bro.
just listen? Can you listen?
He's not.
Listen
Oh my God.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to get mischaracterized what I'm saying, okay?
Okay.
Slavery was wrong. It was absolutely disgusting and immoral thing.
Okay.
I have nothing good to say about that. But the Three-Fifths Compromise, if you counted a person who was a slave as a whole person at that time,
yes,
most of the slaves were held in the south of the Mason-Dixon line,
I just
right?
said that, yeah.
So what would happen is they would have more representation in Congress, and thus those laws that were, by the abolitionists, those would have been gone, okay? So that would have gave the South more power to do the things that they couldn't do. So that's why they said the Three-Fifths Compromise, because then if it's Three-Fifths Compromise, they don't get that power. But of course they're people, so they have to say something, and that's where this came into play. Because if it wasn't for that, this country would have looked a lot differently.
So you're suggesting that it was okay for slaves' bodies to not only be used for labor.
Oh my God, I hate that. She's taking something he said and completely misrepresenting it in order to fit whatever ideology she wants to put on him. Holy crap.
But also used to empower those who are harming them to be fairly represented in government?
I think it's absolutely, they should have been used, period.
Okay,
I think it was
so then we agree on that.
Yeah,
so we agree on that.
It was absolutely abhorrent. There's no excuse for it. There's no justification for it.
So then where's the argument? Because ultimately, when there was an opportunity in Reconstruction for there to be equality and humans considered in a real way and protected,
Democrats torched it. Andrew Johnson.
Yes.
Oh, yep, he brought up Andrew Johnson. And as I said, he did far more damage than good for America. While he did have his small set of good issues, he had such a bad set of other ideals that, man, it fucked up black people and it brought them back. Maybe 50, maybe 100 years back, entirely after they got freedom.
As well as the Supreme Court. That's actually more important, what we have to acknowledge. The Supreme Court.
Yep, that is true. But the thing is, the Supreme Court eventually repealed a bunch of the stuff later.
Court torched it. The Supreme Court has actively, throughout this entire existence of this nation, been at the forefront of impeding any advancement, and it ends up sending us back over and over and over again because it doesn't have term limits, because it doesn't have term limits. It's not elected, it's appointed, and ultimately they have made it abundantly clear that they pick and choose when it's the states that are going to have rights and when they're going to be in a federal position of precedence.
Well, that's
their whole point is to interpret the Constitution to the best of their ability, and then whichever one gets the majority wins. There have been times the wrong side has won, but they do look back at a lot of cases and rethink their positions, like what happened with Roe v. Wade currently.
To do with the supremacy clause. So the supremacy clause is when a federal law is in conflict with the state's law. The federal law will override. For example, in California, weed is legal, right?
But federally,
it's not. So they can come down here and they could say, hey, we're going to raid all these places, and they would be completely in line with the law.
And so this is how segregation and discrimination ended up existing even after the civil rights laws of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were passed, because Congress said we need to protect black people, and the Supreme Court said we actually are not going to give you the right to do so. For what
she's missing is the fact that when the president and the Supreme Court were actually actively fighting against that stuff, Congress was doing everything in its power to give these people rights and give these people liberties, literally fighting the other two branches while doing it. Like, she doesn't account for that, which is people were so passionate, they willingly did that, willingly put themselves in a tough position to slowly over time fix all the damages done.
It's worth, I think we can do this back and forth all day, but at the end of the day, I will completely agree with you. Black people need to let the Democrats go. I think black people need to let both of these parties go and figure out a way to move forward together in our own nation.
You know what? I can actually get on with that because, I don't believe that all Republicans are, good and not using us as well. I agree with that. I agree with that. And
let's sing a duet.
I'm for no matter what color skin you are or black, whatever it is, think for yourself. If you think for yourself and you do your own research and you want to be a liberal radical, go for it. If you want to think for yourself and be a Green Party, go for it.
I agree with this.
If you want to be liberal and be a Republican, then go for it. It's okay.
Oh, God.
I'm down for that. Think for ourselves. Let's do it.
Oh, God, that ended in such a weird way, but okay.
appreciate him on the show and debating with Amanda.
I like this
I could
guy.
see that
He was cool.
there was a care for the community and there was a care for wanting to uplift us rather than treat us like a monolith. And that's what I'm all about. Regardless if you're a Democrat, Green Party, or Republican, like, I just think that people are far more complex than we give them credit.
There is an active effort of folks on any side of the aisle that want to see the elevation of Black people to be able to come together and have real conversations that are grounded not in stats, and this is going to sound real woo-woo, but it's what it is, that are grounded in love. And I hope that whatever anyone took away from this conversation is the reality that I really do love Black people. I love people, and I love the ability to exist on this earth and have access to joy.
I think sometimes things got a little bit heated, and that's
I
okay.
think this guy was pretty
emotions get
cool
the best
too.
of us. But I think overall she did pretty well for her position. I don't agree with her for the most part, but I think she did pretty well.
Just kind of seeing this dynamic that this is really what happens. A lot of times when we look at discourse, we look at it online, so everybody's typing and typing. But this is what real discourse looks like. When you have to really sit in front of someone and unpack your arguments, you can see the pressure that that causes and how you have to really kind of have your thoughts together and how heated and emotional it can get. So I think the fact that you guys, created this space for us to be able to do that is awesome. Whether it was productive or not, we'll only see. Hopefully some of the things that, we said stick with Amanda. She was using some of my quotes, about like resilience and everything. And I was like, okay, so I'm planting a little bit of seeds there. And then of course there were times where when she was right, she was right. And I was like, you know what, she has a point. So I think it's pretty productive if you allow it to be.
Okay. Yeah, so overall that was a very long video, but yeah, discussions like this are overall good for society, but the way Jubilee does it is sometimes a literal minefield just waiting to explode.